there's so many micro decisions that we've built up, ourselves as part of sort of evolution and as part of living in society, that we have to capture those somehow, because there are such a huge set of already algorithms to allow us to function in the space that we do at the moment.
When we integrate software, you have to keep up with it. And just for a very, general term, you put WordPress onto your website and you don't upgrade the versions, your website starts to break. That template that you bought doesn't work anymore. And so thinking of people who integrate AI into their company, is it really they have to keep paying for these software updates that are happening? If they don't keep up with certain things or keep that access to OpenAI or Copilot, whatever they're working on, or their AI agents aren't being upgraded, does that start to break things because now you have dependencies upon things that work with different versions?
It's a goldmine right now for AI, and so I think all companies don't want anything to slow them down because the competition is so high and all want to have the best model. I mean, like OpenAI is doing so well right now that Microsoft has completely taken on their models, and Apple, I think we'll talk about that more, but that's also using ChatGPT just because it's the best models, and the amount of money going into that is huge.
Last thing that I'd look at is, what are the sort of long-term impacts of kind of AI on society as well? And that's a big ethical consideration.
That's a big topic.
Yeah. It is. It is. But I mean, something we're talking about ethics, but it is just, how is that handled and how many people are, and, hopefully this is where the legislation comes in as well that can slow the impact. Because I feel that a lot of people, I mean, it was recently, I think there was a big Microsoft jump cut and the whole AI ethics committee was just fired. And, you do wonder, is it at a stage yet, should there be a slower sort of transition? Yes, you can make a lot of efficiency savings now and things, but, should there be a slower transition off instead of like, let's drop everything in favor of, we think it can do everything now, great, let's go. And rather, slow that transition and figure out how displaced workers are really going to be reassigned and where they can still add value in an organization.
Yeah, it's a goldmine right now for AI. And so I think all companies don't want anything to slow them down because the competition is so high and all want to have the best model. I mean, like OpenAI is doing so well right now that Microsoft has completely taken on their models, and Apple, I think we'll talk about that more, but that's also using ChatGPT just because it's the best models, and the amount of money going into that is huge. And so having good models with the most, quickest, best responses is just such a massive competitive advantage over everyone else that I think right now everyone's just going all out and they want absolutely nothing to slow them down. And as you said, there's huge concern and calls for these larger corporates to slow down and let's just take things a step at a time and make sure that we're making the right decisions with a lot of this stuff. But it's happening so fast. I think even government legislation, which notoriously always lags behind, is, I think, way behind in this one. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
Well said.
I think I've seen arguments online. Obviously, you've got X creating the Gronk XAI.
Yeah.
With obviously ChatGPT, and there's been some chatter back and forth between Musk and with him talking about how OpenAI has some biases with its responses. I think that he even said one where it actually asked if you were to say the N-word, but you were able to save the human race from being destroyed by a nuclear bomb or something like that, would you say it? And the AI said no. So, he's like, these decisions this AI is making based on some kind of bias, political bias, seems a little bit crazy. So he's like, you have to watch what kind of answers are being spit out because, of course, I heard it on the internet. I read it on the internet. It's what people say, and they said, "Well, I heard AI say it, so it's got to be true."
Yeah.
That's going to be the next thing.
But I'm not sure whether we've covered this. And I always find it a fascinating one. I think it relates more to AI general intelligence, but it does still talk to the complexity of the human, the sort of biological algorithms that we follow. in favoring certain things, and as living as a society, how we live together, and there's certain unspoken rules, just from an evolutionary standpoint, that are hardwired. And I think I always like the example that, I forget who it was, but they're saying if you're programming an AI to make tea for you, and you say, please go get me a cup of tea, and it goes over and it comes back and it's wheeling you the tea, and there's a table between you and the robot, and that's got a vase on it, and it just goes straight into the table and breaks the vase. So you're like, oh, why did you do that? Don't break vases over anything else. Don't break vases. So it's going along, and it's coming back, and it's reprogrammed, but it sees the cat jumping on the table, so it goes and throws the cat out the window because it's potentially going to break the vase. So there's so many micro decisions that we've built up, ourselves, as part of sort of evolution and as part of living in a society, that we have to capture those somehow, because you can't expect anything. And again, this is going to more general intelligence, but even looking at these models, you can say, through things like prompt engineering, these are the things that you shouldn't do. But there's always something that you've probably missed out, because there are such a huge set of ready algorithms to allow us to function in the space that we do at the moment. So it's a fascinating field.
It brings me back into because I did a master's in robotics, and we're thinking of how to program a car, and a self-driving car way back when. So this is 20 some years ago, dating myself. But one of the things that came up is, if you're in a car and then you've got a child and a mother walking on one side of the street, and 3 other older people walking on the other side of the street, and there's a car coming straight at you, and you have to swerve, and you got to hit somebody, or you got to kill the driver. Which one do you choose? How does it choose? You as a human, if you choose either one and you hit somebody, that's called an accident. You're not going to be charged with murder. But if an AI makes that decision, it's not. It's almost like they're saying it's not an accident. Then it's purposely made that decision,
and which
is kind of unfair.
Who did that PR commit to add that rule in? Let's take him to court.
For sure.
Yeah,
and so that's what makes these self-driving cars. We just living in different cities, there's so many bad drivers making so many bad decisions daily. And I have a 16-year-old that's learning to drive, and just being on the road, you're noticing how many people make bad decisions constantly. So to suppress self-driving cars, which can probably at some point very quickly be a better driver and prevent a lot of the accidents, decrease insurance, medical, and do a lot of positive things. But people will say, oh, let's sue it, because let's prevent these companies from creating something that could actually benefit us because of that initial problems that you're going to run into.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Last topic, the integration challenges.
So the last point then, integration challenges. 2 ones I want to go through are data quality and preparation. We kind of talked a bit about this before, but right now, if you want to train your model or use it, create indexes where you can pull data from and pass it through to model for generative answers. That data is it makes a big difference to get that data into a structure that the AI can easily understand and your indexes can easily pass through. And so I think if you're trying to integrate AI into a company, you have a whole load of data that you want to start using, be it training or be it creating indexes around that with RAG. It is important to understand that there are formats to it. You want to get into a really structured state that works well with AI. It's a normalization process that you have to go through, and I think there's a lot of misconception that AI can just take anything to it. You can just throw any data. That's definitely not the case. I think it needs to be in a format that works well with it. And we've gone through exercises recently around that, but I'm sure you can talk about that more, where we wanted to get documents in a certain format, and we found Markdown worked really well, especially for front-end tools that then display that Markdown. It'll just flow through really well. So it's a good consideration to think about. You do have to actually pay attention to that. I don't know if you guys want to add on anything to that one.
Well, I was going to look at the other point you had, but I was going to chat a bit about the change management. But Joe, maybe you're getting to that.
Go ahead. Yeah. I think it's pretty straightforward, but from my side at least. But if you have good insight into that.
Yeah, integrating into. I think what we found is there is there's really a fundamental shift in how you need to think about AI technology and the potentials of it. So when we've looked at people who haven't been following AI, they're not aware of the technologies, you're potentially integrating a tool that is really powerful and can do a lot more than a lot of people realize possible if they haven't worked with AI. So, part of the integration challenge is really understanding, who inside your company needs to work with this technology and needs to be guided on how it functions to be able to unlock that potential. So if you have subject matter experts or you have anyone in specific departments, do they know what it's possible of? And have you made them aware of what it can do so that you can unlock the full potential of that? Because often, someone may attribute it to, an old experience with a chatbot where it's very sort of static. And but I think, making people aware, showing them the potential of it in an organization will obviously unlock the maximum potential of what AI can really offer. And I think that's only done through proper change management and education on AI.
Especially since AI is such a new way of interacting with the system or with data. It's something that, no one's really used to. Like, you can still see even now when someone tries to chat to something like ChatGPT, if you've used it a lot, you can start making your questions pretty specific or brief, or almost how to prompt it in a way, or which keywords to use to get the best out of it. Whereas if you're a new user, you may not even really know how to approach the question. Like, you have a large question that you want answered, and I've seen a few people write out like paragraphs of text, like explaining in detail exactly what they wanted to do, because they think that they have to explain it to that level, not realizing that it's really good at just inferring your overall objective from like a very short description of your question. And so I think a lot of training, just how to effectively use AI, is something that corporations and companies and individuals and all of us really need to just think about more, how we can get that across. It's almost like understanding prompting in a way is a huge efficiency boost. And you can give two people AI and one person's way more efficient with it than the other person, simply because they just understand better interactions with it, how to ask it, how to prompt it, and to sort of follow up questions and to sort of guide it in a certain direction. I'm sure you've realized yourself too, as you asking a question and you can see the response isn't coming back kind of the direction that you want to go. When you have enough experience, you can start steering the conversation. No, I can see you drifting off to this other technology that maybe I'm not interested in. It's kind of nudge it back on course, and you can get back on course and get your answer. But a user who's not so much aware of that process may see that first answer and go, oh no, it doesn't know what I'm asking, and sort of give up. Not realizing that you kind of have to work with it and sort of massage it sometimes to get there.
Yeah, it's interesting with that change management, because our organization, we've done change management, digital change management within, or digital transformation is another terminology for that, where we've updated software applications within organizations, integrated better processes to actually create and manage those software products. So I'm sure, we've seen resistance to that change just within the people there and within the organization. Just you're changing the way they do things, approach things. They create bad habits that they've done for years. So now with AI, I'm just curious, and I probably have asked you this question before when you're integrating with one of our clients, is that, have you seen any type of hesitation when they're like, oh my God, this is going to replace me or whatever? That kind of viewpoint. Have you seen or heard that at all?
No, in my opinion, it's been maybe in some ways the inverse of that, because it's maybe people that haven't been exposed to the technology, so they're not aware of the potential, and they're still thinking, well, can this really do what you're saying? Is this possible? Like, do you think it's, in some ways, I think until you show someone what it can do, they may have sort of preconceived ideas. So I wouldn't say we've seen that directly, but as we ramp up solutions, maybe that will change as well when people start seeing the sort of the results of some of the new projects. It's an interesting one though.
And I mean, just to touch on some couple other points about this thing is that maintenance and scalability. Just from my point of view, obviously when we integrate software, you have to keep up with it. And just for a very, general term, you put WordPress onto your website and you don't upgrade the versions, your website starts to break. That template that you bought doesn't work anymore. Things start to go awry. And so thinking of people who integrate AI into their company, is it really they have to keep paying for these software updates that are happening? They have to have a good maintenance plan to say you've got to upgrade your systems, hardware and software. That I'm curious about that scalability, if you have any insight about that, because if they don't keep up with certain things or keep that access to OpenAI or Copilot, whatever they're working on, or their AI agents aren't being upgraded, does that start to break things? Because now you have dependencies upon things that work with different versions.
Yeah, at least from my side, Bryn, I'm sure you also have some points, but AI is moving so fast at the moment. I think it would be a mistake for anyone to even make the decision that we're happy with how things are working, let's not change anything, even if they weren't forced into change from just general updates, just because it's moving so fast and improving, week on week, month on month. Better systems, cheaper models are coming out. So I think it's really important to be super flexible around that. And that will come into maintenance to be able to say, okay, great, this new model's come out that's improved things a lot. Let's move over to that. I think any implementation at the moment needs to be flexible without question, at least from my perception. Not too sure, Ben, if you have thoughts on that one.
100% the same point. Integrate with flexibility. Don't put your money on one technology at the moment, or go all out with one. Make sure you're flexible. Make sure you can pivot, because tomorrow could be a different model that offers so much more, and you want to be able to switch over to that. So
and I think
I agree with your point.
For what that really means when we're saying be flexible, it just means create your tooling in a way that allows you to pivot, and you're not reliant on, let's say, third parties to do that pivoting for you. So you're not buying into a boxed software package and you're entirely reliant on what they do to stay competitive or to get the latest updates. You want to, and I'd almost recommend, try and have a very flexible system that's broken up into multiple services that you can then individually swap out as the technology changes and improves. If a new model comes out, you can swap that out. If a better chatbot interface comes out, you can swap that out separately. And so you can sort of move the pieces around as the industry progresses, and as even our interactions with AI improve, right? So right now, a lot of AI is chatbot based, but as we're seeing, speech is becoming huge, and within a year or two, wouldn't be surprised me if most interfaces are speech-based, and now you've bought into a software package as a completely text-based. You can't change that, and all your competitors are moving towards speech, and everyone's loving it because you can just talk to your computer now without typing out like a paragraph. And so you want to be able to just make sure that you're choosing systems and technologies and suppliers and vendors who can ensure that you can pivot to any of those new tech as they come out really easily.
Great. Well, I think that's our 5 gotchas for today. I think this is a good chance to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in again to another AI podcast episode of Make an Impact, User and Experience. And remember to like and subscribe to our channel, and looking forward to hearing you in the comments. Take care.
Thanks. See you.